to healing with sound, vibrational energy. Edgar Cayce said, "We must change vibrations if we're going to have permanent change in the body." He also said that the future of healthcare is going to be sound healing. Most diseases will have a frequency pattern that will eradicate them. Just think, you could download them, perhaps from the government store for free. There still would be healthcare issues that can be addressed by things in my book, Secret Sounds, Ultimate Healing, right here. It's Sherry Edwards' Bioacoustics. And through that process, you can look at frequency patterns of digestion, the Krebs cycle of digestion, or your metabolic cycles, and more, and repair ongoing functions. Later we're going to talk about my deep wave body healing, an ancient Atlantean method of healing the toning, of toning and harmonizing your body. When your body's in tune and harmonized, it is also healthy. But more of that later. Right now, we're going to start with an exercise, grounding with sound. This is a lot easier to do in a workshop when you have several other people, but we'll do our best with just one. I'm going to show you, each hand is surrounded by Nora, and when you bring your hands together, you can feel resistance at a certain distance. I feel resistance right here. That's because the aura of my right hand is butting up against the aura of my left hand. So each aura is about this big. How big your aura is has a lot to do with how much energy you radiate, and how strong and powerful you are. When you're sick, you might find that border right here. So this is a dowsing rod. It's another way of seeing, it's for like finding water lines. Now with this type of dowsing rod, it will pick up subtle energy. There you go. It's picking up the edge of the energy coming from my hands. So you see about how far that is. Okay, now we're going to do the exercise. It's called grounding with sound. You can do it anytime, anywhere. It's best without shoes. Most of us have our chakras in our bottom of our feet blocked because we wear non-slip shoes, boots, flip-flops, and the man-made material blocks the flow of energy from Mother Earth to our feet and up in our body. These man-made materials disconnect us with the energy and the ions coming up from the Earth herself that are healing and sustaining and connecting. So I flipped off my shoes, and here we go. I'm going to make any tone that's comfortable to me. Couple seconds of taking my voice down as low as it comfortably can. Now, let's check my aura. I'm going to put my hand way out here. See? Look how much bigger it got. Wow. That's a lot of power. When I do this exercise in class, I usually kind of push someone, rudely I suppose, and then I have them ground the sound, and I try to push that person, and I can't. They are physically stronger, and you are physically stronger when you ground in the earth. So I would suggest next time you go for a raise, ground the sound. Okay, we're going to try an extension exercise. We're going to do it the other way. This was a very ancient idea in which you use sound that carries other energies for waves in close proximity combined simple science. And I can do that on my voice. Hello, hello, hello. And you can see how the messages are very different. The word is just a skeleton on which to hang other energies. Likewise, we're going to do our voice as a skeleton to fish, snag, catch better energies, higher energies, and bring them in. The idea is that you take sound up comfortably in your voice as you imagine your energy going way above your head. When you do that, and we will do it with right intent, to bring forth loving energy into ourselves and our worlds. So we're going to go up in our voice, like a cowboy, and lasso this divine celestial energy, perhaps belonging to ourselves, our Holy Spirit, our higher monad, our higher godly energies. And through the tool, the lasso of our voice and sound energy, we'll bring it right back down. So, here we go. Comfortably, I'm going to start with my own voice. Ooh, 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 ooh. Now, if I sit still, it feels like stardust is raining on me. It's the energy is coming down and floating on me like snow. Little glistening drops of heavenly energy. Very powerful. Now we can combine the two and do what I call body flossing. Here it is. Ooh, oh, oh. Kind of just pretend this is my body, and I'm just kind of flossing, bringing up earth energy, bringing in heavenly energy, and mixing the two for perfect harmony, power, and balance. Okie dokie, on to the next exercise. And please feel free to stop the video and do the exercises. Next exercise, sounds of silence. This particular exercise I found in the secret teachings of the ancient Chinese, Hindus, Buddhism, in Americas, Druids, all over the globe. This is a very, very powerful exercise. This particular exercise teaches you to recognize subtle energy. And what is subtle energy? Well, when you're psychic, when you're able to have prophecy and perhaps get glimpses of the future, you're using subtle energy. Remote viewing, you're using subtle energy. Things that maybe we consider miracles can use subtle energy. Accessing more energy gives us more information, more power, more vitality. When we're sick, we kind of have less energy to draw upon. Think of even the voice of someone sick. Hello. Just a frail fraction of the full energy within our voice. Okay, here's the sounds of silence. The idea is that what you focus on becomes amplified. Think about 3rd grade and the hot gossips going on in the seat next to us. And the teacher's talking about something really boring. So, I don't know about you, but my ears would get really big. The teacher would just like muff her, and then I would amplify, pay attention, focus on, direct my energy and intent to the person speaking off the hot gossip. In essence, I was able to amplify those waves, those feelings, those sounds I wished, and shut out those I didn't. You can test people's hearing, and we think as long as we can hear one another and understand what we're saying, we have perfect hearing. Not necessarily so. Within this pitch or that, I used 2 pitches there, maybe there's 100 different cycles per second. And I could hear you perfectly, and you me. And yet we both, let's say I'm missing 12 of those cycles per second. Every cycle per second I can hear will have a matching cilia in my ear hair. And let's say you were, I had an abusive father, which I didn't, but let's say I did. I could tone out his voice, the cilia representing the frequencies of his voice. I could tone them out so much that I killed them, and those cilia or ear hairs were no longer. I would be deaf in that frequency. Now, I still could hear, and hear in those ranges, because there's many cycles per second in that range. But yet, every time I'm near someone with the pitch of that voice, I'm going to block them out. I'm going to have no feelings. I'm going to be able to unable to relate to them. There are also things in my body that are that frequency, and I need to hear those tones in order for resonance to occur, for me to feed the vital organs. The more I numb, the more I dull out, the more I stop vitalizing energy into my body. I've learned from Sherry Edwards, looking at the voices of people and all the notes that they have in their voice. What I noted is people with cancer, usually very loving, kind people, who, rather than be angry, turn that anger inside so they're still nice to you. Their voices are flat. It's like they have no vitalizing energy on any pitch. They've numbed themselves to the pain. And sooner or later, the pain kind of eats them, like cancer, reflecting the inner emotional state. So we need all frequencies. And one thing about paying attention to every little frequency is that you amplify it, strengthen it. Strengthen your ability to hear it. Strengthen your ability to ingest vitalizing frequencies. And also, just think of this metaphor for a moment. A galaxy, and then you come down to a universe. Universe to a galaxy, and then think of a solar system, then think of a planet, then a country, then your country, then a town, then your body, then an organ, then a cell, then an electron, neutrino, and gets smaller and smaller. It's like there's waves, waves within waves, within waves, within waves. Likewise, the more ways that we can focus on and recognize the more energy we have available, the more aware we are of what's going on in other dimensions, or contact with those we love that have departed, or being aware when an angelic or celestial being is near you. So there's a lot of really good reasons to develop your focus and ability to receive and recognize smaller and smaller, like little universes of energy and information. The ancient Chinese had a version of this. Drive me crazy. They would listen to the same note, like, for hours. Shoot me now. I don't know if I could do that. Can you imagine going to your refrigerator and listening to the hum for an hour and really focusing on it? That's what they were doing with tones. They were noticing that a tone has like a wah, wah. You can feel that, like if you're in a street and somebody has their car windows down, deep subwoofer, and maybe perhaps rap music, and you can feel it shake your bones. You can feel wah, wah. You can feel the cycles per second, literally shaking your bones. And that's the way sound waves are. So what the ancient Chinese did was they would listen to wah, wah, and then they would pay attention to the silence underneath, or in between, I should say. Wah, wah. Kind of like when you're breathing, paying attention to your in-between time, between breaths. Same thing. And by listening to a sound and focusing on the silence in between, they became aware that underneath was another world. Like underneath the universe is a galaxy, and underneath the galaxy is a solar system. Same kind of thought. So they would shift down to another dimension, another level, more information. And then, with much practice and focus, they would be able to hear sounds within this new dimension. They could hear another set of wah, wah, wah. Once again, they'd focus on the silence in between. When they were done observing such subtlety, they became extremely psychic, sharpened telepathic skills, remote viewing, and this was very powerful, particularly if they were trying to stay in power. Almost a survival skill for some countries. At that time, reflecting this, you'll see in the Chinese music, they have a technique called vibrato. I'm a violinist. And a vibrato is, the way I was taught, put your finger on that string and you just shake it. That's how I was taught. That's it. Shake it. Not so with the ancient Chinese. They were given as many as 42 written instructions within a second, maybe, one shake. And they were variations that they were to perform within that second, describing the vibrato: loud, soft, faster, finger harder pressed, lighter pressed, gradually slowing down, slow, fast, I mean, all kinds of variations. And those advanced minds fed and enjoyed on this subtlety, enlivening their perspective, their wisdom, their dimensions, their power, their energies, their health, just from listening to subtlety. Back to this technique, listening to silence. When you first listen to silence, you may note that there are sounds outside the body. I tell myself these sounds only help me concentrate, and then I ignore them. Then I listen to sounds within, You could take your earlobes and kind of flop them over. Put earplugs in, if that would help you. When I first started listening to silence, I heard like my circulation. Later I heard a very high-pitched kind of a sound, my nervous system. As I focused on these inner sounds, they became louder and louder. And shortly, I heard another world of sounds underneath my body sounds. I heard first oceans, like an ocean wave. Then I heard crickets, I heard bells. But anyway, like let's say I'm doing the ocean waves, I would go through this for maybe anywhere from 3 months to 2 years when I was going through a certain phase of raising my energies. When I had succeeded, I went to the next level, and a next nature sound appeared. The more I focused on it, the louder it became. The more I focused on it, the less time it took me to advance a level. There's a difference between tinnitus and these little tones that you can hear inside your body. Tinnitus is the same frequency all the time. It doesn't get louder or softer under any circumstance. These are quite different. When you're not paying attention, the volume's turned down. When you are paying attention, volume up. And they definitely vary over time. I'm going to share with you a laundry list of sounds from inner circles like Krishna, Buddha, Lao Tzu, Tibetan monks, inner circles where they describe these sounds. Okay, here we go. The pounding of the surf, the sea, the humming of bees, tinkling of soft bells, ringing of bells, chirping of crickets, babbling water of a brook, thunder, and a lion's roar, the blowing on a conch shell, the gong of a big drum, strings being plucked on the harp, and the lovely, melodious sound of a flute, the sound of bagpipes, and finally the absence of all sound, meaning enlightenment. The Bible even refers to this. Here is Revelations 14:2. And I heard the voice from heaven, like the sound of many waters, like the sound of loud thunder. The voice I heard was like the sound of harpers playing on their harps. They're referring to this process, to inner sounds, to inner celestial realms. Okay, now I'm going to ask you to turn off the video and spend some time listening to silence and getting more and more into it. This is an exercise that would be best doing perhaps 10-15 minutes a day, a fast track given to the disciples and people chosen to be within the inner circle of famous masters. I would like to compare listening to sounds of silence to string theory. String theory thinking the smallest quantum units perhaps are strings. Unlike a violin, let's say, where you stop it and it gets shorter one way, this type of an instrument could go either way. And the different stops on the strings would make different vibrations, different sound patterns, perhaps for different worlds or dimensions. In ancient times, they thought that the void, like, for example, perhaps in space, could be reached in meditation and near-death experiences, certainly never thought to be empty. Ancient science believed that the tetrahedron, like a little star-shaped kind of thing, matrices were an empty space, resembling the picture of a 2D flower of life diagram found in ancient China and other ancient societies. So perhaps string theory is correct, and we at a quantum level have strings waiting for us to master and to pluck, to sing a beautiful song. But first, let's expand the frequencies that we have to vibrate. And I would suggest that you could do this sound of silence for years. I did. Lately, meaning the last maybe 5 years, I'm taping this in 2015, I've been hearing, though, a high-pitched sound pretty often in my ears. When I'm busy, it fades, and I know enough from this exercise that it is a valuable gift. These gifts give us access to energy and information. So I've been focusing on them. And the more I focus, the more I grow. The more I evolve, the more psychic skills I have, the healthier I am. My very high-pitched downloads, I believe, are given to all on the path, all light workers. So if you are hearing these little high-pitched noises in your ear, kind of a metallic sounding high pitch, like you'd imagine a pitch from an electrical wire, focus on it. It's a gift. Okay, back to silence. Just pointing out that in one of the ancient mystery schools, the Pythagorean mystery school of ancient Greece, anybody who wished to join the school would do this typical process for a new student. They'd be an initiate, then pass a test to be a disciple, and pass a test to be an adept master, go up some type of pecking order. And in order to even be considered, their virtue and value and ability to keep secrets of the school and psychic abilities would be evaluated. The virtue, because they did not want their powerful secrets in the hands of people without virtues. For example, Hitler was into a lot of mysticism, hoping to use these ancient secrets for not so good purposes. So, to be an initiate in the Pythagorean mystery school, you had to vow to not speak for 5 years. See, when I read antiquity, it's like, what are they, nuts? I couldn't imagine not uttering a word by choice for 5 years. So why did they value silence? What's in it for the devotee, for the school, for the earth? Why? They wanted their secrets honored. This certainly was practice in keeping your mouth shut. You would learn to think before you spoke. You would learn to listen. And when you listen, you hear the words, like the little skeleton of what the person is saying from the symbols of the meanings of the word. Whereas only 5 or 10% is on the word, the true energy is in how a word is spoken. I love you versus I love you. It's very different. They would learn then a form of telepathy, of reading a person's feelings and thoughts without any help of words, because they weren't thinking about nor focusing on what they were going to say next. That was pretty easy, than just saying nothing. They were also learning to pay attention to where the sound resonates in a body. T, t, coming right in here. K. S. Ah. E. I. And that was very important, for they would use that energy to massage and heal portions of their body that needed a massage and energy tune-up. By being able to hold your tongue, you learn to be a pacifist, develop internal strength, rely on spirituality and spiritual information. Pythagoras taught that even if you say, oh, that's awfully nice, awful and nice, they're kind of oxymorons, they're opposites, and hence they create a little bit of dissonance. He would strongly advise people not to use dissonance in their words, to speak only harmony and balance for spiritual growth. So people would learn to speak with harmony and balance in all words and increase their awareness of energy and sound. So there's a lot of things to be gained in the silence. Next, we're going to go into another hot and heavy hit from antiquity. This is found in the Americas, North and South, Europe, Asia, all over the globe, Australia, the same technique. Today, we look at nature, and we would think of biology, perhaps, or maybe chemistry and analyze what's in the soil, or maybe physics and note, I don't know what time of year it is. But they would look at the same scene with the lens of geometry, looking at the structure of geometry, noting which shapes occur over and over. And the big heavy hit, although there's many, but the big heavy hit, the spiral. The spiral in a galaxy, in a seashell. And this we call today the Fibonacci series of numbers that with geometry creates that spiral. Fibonacci was a man, I'm thinking in the 1400s, perhaps in Italy, who just wrote down this observation of this pattern, and he's given credit for it, although it was used many thousands of years prior. You'll find it all over nature. For example, the path of Venus in the midnight sky, in 8 times, it stands still, and it traces a perfect 5-pointed star. Again, they would see this as an indication of the heavenly energy resulting from a 5-pointed star, a Fibonacci or a phi machine. In the Fibonacci numbers, which the last 2 numbers create the next, like 1, 1, 2, 1 and 2 equals 3. That's the next Fibonacci number. 3 and 5 is 8. That's the next. And so on. You just go like that, and you get these numbers. And then with ancient techniques, you would create the spiral with those numbers. And if you add any 2 adjacent numbers, you get very close to phi. Phi is 0.016 some da-da-da-da-da. It's an irrational number going on forever. And remember that although we round things off, Mother Nature does not. So I like to do this thought experiment. I'm thinking there's 2 little seeds in a seed pod, and perhaps male, female, and they each have a different wave. Well, waves in close proximity combine. So at first they combine, and it's easy, 10, let's say, and 20 cycles, and you get the difference between the 2 and the resulting wave. Not too hard. But if you combine 2 wavelengths and the difference is an irrational number, you'll find that in nature it's usually phi, this particular set of numbers. And whenever that happens, it never concludes the math. So this is my thought experiment. Here's these 2 seeds. And the first phi in the Fibonacci series of numbers is the most under phi. And think of the first branch going off to the right. And then the math's easy. and the plant grows straight. Next phi is the furthest one over phi. Irrational number never concludes, and then the rest of the branch goes up with easy math. The next phi is closer yet to phi, and by the way, they never reach phi, they just keep getting closer. And you have your third branching pattern going up, and then you go up a little bit more, so you have over, under, over, under, over, under, and that creates the curve in nature. Think of the toy the Etches sketch. It had two simple knobs, one to make a curve, one to make a straight line. Think of the right knob as the Fibonacci of phi, creating the curve. In ancient times, again, all over the globe, these numbers were used to create musical scales. Easy peasy. 1 cycle per second, 2 cycle per second, 3 cycle per second. They simply made their scales match the Fibonacci pattern. Scales in ancient times, if you graphed them, the numbers representing the cycles per second, you always got a spiral. Always. They always were ingesting nature when they listened to music. They were sharing and harmonizing with the earth. We stopped this practice in the Renaissance, and after that, the Industrial Revolution occurred. And at that point, we plundered the earth and had no idea what we were doing because we lost our connect. We've stopped listening to these very powerful frequencies. So, I put them in my Paint Your Soul CD. There it is. Right here. I have the spirals that we no longer hear in music. I channel my music, meaning I hear it, or cosmic plagiarism that's given to me. It's very celestial sounding, and it fills your aura up with light. You can do Carillion photography before and after to verify, or you could use, I don't know where I put it down, put my little dowsing rod and check your aura before and after to verify it. When you bring in light into your aura, you're increasing your vitality, wisdom, and all your psychic abilities. So this has several things in it. One is the Fibonacci series of numbers in sound. In another way that ancient people improved their energy was by listening to another set of numbers. Let me suggest that in these ancient mystery schools, that many of the people were chosen for their psychic abilities. Likewise, today with the Tibetan, the Dalai Lama, the new Dalai Lama is chosen for his psychic abilities. They assume that this advanced being reincarnates with those abilities intact. So that is how they identify and recognize the new Dalai Lama. This is a practice held by many ancient groups, not just the Tibetans. So their clairvoyant initiates, adepts, disciples could see the energy around someone. Perhaps you know someone who's clairvoyant, but there are ranges of being clairvoyant. The one who comes to mind to being like the ancient masters is Donna Eden. With her energy medicine, she can see your life colors, your mood colors. She can see the energies or the colors of things in your body. Ancient people report, a lot of people did this, and they could see, they write, that there's certain patterns of sound that just light up like a Christmas tree. And obviously they were interested in that, and they would play those sounds over and over again. Today, these sounds are given many names: solfeggio tones, enlightening tones, ascension codes, but in the kind of, mystical. But then it would be more like in your face, stupid, how could you not see? This sound does this to you, and this sound does this. And you feel fabulous, like this. So that was one of the ways that they selected these ancient tones. You find the solfeggio tones, a set of numbers, in most of the ancient mystery schools, notably brought to light by Horowitz and Puleo, by decoding a number pattern of the Old Testament. Horowitz and Puleo write, through antiquity, that each particular tone within the solfeggio notes has a different blessing. For example, the fifth tone is that which is used to tune DNA. DNA without love coils, and you lose connectivity. With love, it uncoils. Therefore, that particular tone, 528 hertz, has been associated with love. And I have quite a bit of information on it in this book, Ancient Sounds, Modern Healing. A little bit more about ancient man. I think we're going to go back to Pythagoras for a little detour. Pythagoras is known to have said, all is number. Not all is sound, but all is number. He says, the universal language is math. And the way to get a good dosage of what you need is math expressed as cycles per second, rhythmic patterns, harmonic information. So if you're a painter like me, and you need a palette to paint a complete picture, you need red, orange, yellow, green, indigo, blue, violet. You need all of the energy. So let's say 1 might be associated with red, 2 with orange, 3 with yellow. So just as you would need a whole palette to paint a picture, you need 1 to 9 to paint a picture. Said differently, think of the musical scale in our pianos. C, D, E, F, and you have 7 notes through what we call an octave. C, C. That's our musical system. 7 primary colors in the rainbow, and 7, just 7 numbers, but 7 that makes up a whole. But with numbers, they felt 9 made up a whole. 1, intuitively easy, is associated like with the sun or an individual. 2 with a couple. 3 the Trinity, but it could be any type of Trinity, Father, Son, Holy Ghost. It could be you, Holy Ghost Father, you, Holy Ghost Mother, Mother, Child, any type of Trinity. 4 is, again, it's a little bit of a knockoff of 2. It's also an even number. It's also, they considered even numbers more feminine, odd more masculine, or action-oriented. 4 would be stable, balanced, a good work number. Your odd numbers for change and perhaps a little struggle for that change, but like going up a step. And so each number was an energy. This was the high use of numbers. The low, mundane, kind of grubby use of numbers might be what we call mathematics. At least that's how they viewed it. They viewed using numbers for healing. For example, they would note the subtle energy in a plant with 5 petals, and they would note that most 5-petaled things had a very similar subtle energy, similar to that of a 5-pointed star. And then they would spend time meditate, feeling, focusing, going down very deep, gaining all kinds of information, and comparing the energy of a 5-pointed star, an apple that you slice in half, like top to bottom, and look at the 5 stars, with a 5-leafed plant, and note the similarity in the 5s. So energy to create the universe, God's toolbox, would have had 9 numbers, 9 mixing tools. In the solfeggio tones, you'll find something kind of special about these solfeggio numbers. As ancient man used large numbers in Sumeria, and this is the cradle of our civilization, like 3,000 years BC, they're doing exponential math. So they're not mathematically stupid by any means. But they considered root numbers 1 to 9 very sacred, and in fact, they were the number of their gods. Their gods, they had different names, but basically they were God of 1, God of 2, 3, 4. And again, me and my silliness read antiquity through the eyes of today and thought, wow, God's numbers, how stupid. Really what they're saying is, there were different gods to compose the energies of things in our world, like someone in charge of compassion, someone in charge of mercy, someone in charge of strength, and someone in charge of transformation. And like there would be like a manager for each of these processes on earth, and they would be called a god. In Egypt, you'll find the gods also associated with numbers, throwbacks of these ancient understandings and ideas. There's a system in antiquity called gematria, and this was a way of taking larger numbers and reducing them to the component 1 to 9 building blocks of our universe. So in gematria, let's say you had a number 125. You would take 1 plus 2, that's 3. 3 plus 5 is 8. So they would say that the root note, the source energy of 125 is 8. Let's say they had 96. 9 plus 6 is 5. Still not a root note, so then they'd go 1 plus 5 equals 6. Gematria was used in this manner to find the real energy of numbers. So when you look at the solfeggio numbers, you'll find that when you apply gematria, that they're a pattern of 3, 6, 9. When you multiply, add, subtract, or any type of mathematical function that I used, created another number that created another 3, 6, 9 pattern. There was also a lot of master numbers. They consider a master number 111, 222, 333. They considered these powerful numbers that an archangel might wield, for example. You know, it's not just 1, but 111. And when you play with these numbers, let me suggest that whenever you gain a new mastery in life, you usually take a final exam, which is a pretty big hardship. Just a little word of caution. Anyway, with the master numbers, you'll find them in many different ways throughout the solfeggio tones. They're loaded with them. Scientists that had inventions far above their time, such as Tesla or Kepler from the 16th century or 1600s, credited their inventions that they did not leave with us for fear that mankind would misuse them. They both credited a source of unleashable energy with the number pattern of 369, not necessarily the sound pattern, but a 369 in energy units, patterns of 369. So the solfeggio tones are a 369 machine. And it's really kind of interesting because the Catholic Church banned the use of phi in music they banned the use of the spiral, of the Fibonacci. So back to our Etch-a-Sketch, where we got a little knob over here with phi and creating the spiral. Let's say the solfeggio creates the straight line. All of the ancient societies were using phi in the shapes found in nature. The Catholic Church banned the use of them. It's called the Devil's Diabolus. You can read it in their laws. They condemned this particular use of mathematics in music. A true interval that produces phi, or the beginning of a spiral, is in between like a C and an F sharp and a G. You weren't even allowed to be buried in sacred soil, and they pretty much condemned music. And I find my first reaction was to be very angry at the Catholic Church for suppressing that of nature. But then I did learn the Egyptians did it, Sumerians did it, China did it, Hindu, pretty much everybody in ancient times did it. They saw subtle energy is the building block of everything. And he who controlled easily malleable, subtle energy, particularly through music, controlled all. My classic example is look at the Grand Canyon. The water goes over the rocks. The water bends to the rocks. So you say, rock harder, until you look at the canyon. Water went out. It was the continuous flow, and so it is with sound. The continuous flow adds up and enables people power. So, these Fibonacci numbers and scales equating to Fibonacci were banned by the Catholic Church. And Gildo de Rezzo, a Franciscan monk, I believe it was or Benedict, I don't know, one of the monks, came up with a scale. It's called the solfeggio scale. And interestingly enough, the solfeggio scale is phyless. It's kind of hard to have such a complex pattern of numbers and be phyless, and they are. So here's our Etch-a-Sketch. Phi, solfeggio. And back to my Paint Your Soul, it has 18 solfeggio tones. Now there's 9 solfeggio tones in the original pattern. But I learned off the ancient Egyptians that they would have musical scales to manage their ka body, meaning their opposite body. Again, I know when I first started reading antiquity, I just thought these people were nuts. Until I began to understand more and kept reading for tens of years, dozens of years. When I studied quantum entanglement, or spooky action at a distance, this is what I learned. This was the example given in the science book. If you had a roulette wheel, black and white spokes, and you had one on Earth, and you had the exact same roulette wheel on Mars, and if they were quantum entangled, if I spin the one on Earth and it lands on white, the one on Mars will spin and it will land on black. They did test this. I believe they created some type of machine to test quantum entanglement. They were able to replicate it, and it can be replicated, and they were able to say quantum entanglement happens. It's like your energy's entangled, and this does this does that. Like, think of it like a seesaw, perhaps a double seesaw. The Egyptians had music to balance the human body and its awareness, and also its quantum entangled body. And they were constantly balancing the two. Pretty cool. Well, with the help of a friend from Australia, I wasn't able to, he showed me how to come up with the quantum entangled solfeggio. He called it the reversed solfeggio tones. And I've got the solfeggio and the quantum entangled solfeggio for total balance, like the Egyptians, also in the Paint Your Soul. And you can read a lot about this in my book, Lost Waves of Time, and you can find a lot about it at ancient-music.com. Okay. I think we're going to leave that for now, except I'm going to give you some examples of how to use your solfeggio tones. In my Ancient Sounds book, I have a picture of Carillion photography showing someone's aura. We just listened to 6 of the 18 solfeggio tones. I don't know if you can see it, but there's all kinds of light about this one aura and not about this. This is really bad. This lady is very ill, I would suggest. And look, we're just listening to 6 of the 18 solfeggio tones, bringing light, vitality, health, and all kinds of goodies into her energy fields. So you can sing to the solfeggio tones. That's probably the most powerful usage. You can find them on YouTube. I have. You can purchase tuning forks. I have the solfeggio tuning forks on my website. And you can't hear them on the pianos because they're in between the notes. There's a school done by David Holz and by Hank Salata at Higher Healing by Hank in Cleveland, Ohio. And David is in the eastern coast in the United States, David Holz, H-U-L-S-E. And these people will give you many classes on just using these tones. And it feels divine. It feels absolutely divine to be tuned by the tuning forks. I do have a video at ancient-music.com showing some basic techniques on how to use tuning forks. You could use the solfeggio, the regular solfeggio for these chakras, and the reverse for your back chakras. You can listen to my Paint Your Soul CD and adjust them. You could simply write the numbers, put them in a baggie, and stick them in your bathtub. There's pictures from ancient papyri showing that they would take writings on papyrus, sacred geometry, special numbers, and they would put it in their water to make a healing potion, much like you see from Masaru Emoto, although I know science has not credited his work. Antiquity would agree with his work. And what Masaru Emoto did was he photographed freezing crystals, showing that those crystals exposed to loving, kind words produced harmony and symmetry, whereas those that produced harsh words produced jagged, lopsided figures. And he was comparing harmony in your words and your intent with harmony in shapes. Antiquity definitely follows along those lines. So, there are some ideas about the solfeggios, the Fibonacci's, and some healing. I guess it's time for a break, and we'll be back with more of vibrational healing. Cool.